everyone, and welcome to our second part of our virtual coding activity with Spurs Give. Today we're going to be working on coding our basketball player. So if you haven't already, the activity sheet is on the Spurs Give website. You just have to go to spursgive.org/coding, and if you scroll down, it will be somewhere underneath here. Right now, it's not available, but it will be somewhere down here in this area under probably it will be week 3. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just switch on over to Scratch. So in your address bar, you're going to type scratch.mit.edu and hit enter. You're going to need to go ahead and sign in to your Scratch account. So we're working with the code you worked on in Activity 1 from week 2, where you coded the basketball. So this week, we're going to be working with that code and adding to it. So you need to have finished that activity to do this one. So once you're signed in, go ahead and click that drop-down arrow next to your name. Click on My Stuff, and then find your activity from last week. So I'm working with this one. This will put me, my basketball code will be done, but I'll get to start new code for our player. So it will take you to this screen. Just click the See Inside button. And so we'll default to where we see the basketball code first, and you should have all of this done. Again, if you don't, go ahead and head back to last week's activity and get that done first. If you're already caught up, go ahead and click on our Max sprite. All the code we do today is going to be for Max. So I'm working from the activity sheet on my iPad, so if you see me look off screen, that's why. I'm following along with that one. So step 1. We're going to go ahead and start with our events palette, which is an event is what starts our program. So we're going to grab the when green flag clicked option, and then we're going to grab a forever loop. And with a forever loop, whatever we put inside here is going to execute as long as the program is running. So that's going to be important because what we're building is moving our sprite back and forth. And if we didn't have this loop, then we could only do that maybe once when the code first started, but because we're doing the when green flag clicked block, we probably wouldn't be able to move much at all. So that's why we have the forever block. Inside that, we're going to stack 2 if statements. So still in the control drawer, grab this if block and nest it inside that forever loop. Grab a second one and stack it underneath. Okay. So then we're going to fill in, this is called our condition for an if statement. We're going to grab what that condition is, and it's going to be from our sensing drawer, which is this light blue drawer. And for both of them, it's going to be this key space press block. So go ahead and click and drag that, and watch what I do carefully if you haven't done this before. So with our if statements, you see how that's highlighted white now that I'm hovering over it. Once you see that, you can go ahead and release the block, and it will snap inside. If you don't see that white highlight on the diamond, it's not going to go in. So it will probably jump behind your code. So make sure you see that white highlight. And I'm going to show you again with the second one that I'm putting in our second if statement. So I'm going to change this first key space press block to our left arrow. And I'm going to change the second one to the right arrow because we're going to use our left and right arrow keys to move our sprite. And yes, you could use different keys, but for this activity, we're going to stick with left and right arrow because then it's very clear what we need to use for our code to work. Right, so we're going to put 2 blocks of code inside our first if statement. And we're going to do the, in the motion drawer, we're going to grab this point in direction 90. And then we're going to grab the change x by 10. But we're going to change, we're going to change both of these to negatives because when we're going left, because of how graphs work, if you've seen those in math class, you know if you move to the left, it's with a negative number. If you move to the right, it's with a positive number. So we're going to do that with this one. So we're going to change 90 to a negative 90. So you can just click in there and then grab the little tool and change it to negative 90. And then in change x by 10, just click once inside so that the 10 is highlighted and click in front of the 1 and use your dash key to make it a negative. That key is found right next to the 0 on your keyboard. Once you have that done, go ahead and grab those 2 blocks again for the right arrow. So you're going to get point in direction 90 and then change x by 10. But because we're moving right, we don't need to change those. They get to stay positive values. In step 2, we're going to grab another when green flag clicked block. And then we're going to grab 2 blocks from our motion drawer again, but they're 2 new blocks. We're going to grab this go to X and Y block, and we're going to change these values. So X, we're going to click into that first bubble and change it to 0. And then Y, we're going to change to -133. Underneath that, you're going to attach a set rotation style block, which is still located in the motion drawer. You just have to scroll down a little. And we're going to leave that set to left, right. We're going to come back to this block later and add some code to it, but for now we're going to leave it alone and move on to adding a sound when we're moving across the screen to our sprite. So step 3, we're going to add sound to our sprite real quick. So you're going to come up here to these tabs, and where you see the sound, you're going to click sound. To add a sound, so I already have these sneaker sounds on mine. I'm actually going to delete this duplicate. But to add a sound on yours, you're going to come down here to the megaphone looking thing and click that button. And then in the search bar, you're going to type sneaker squeaks. And so you'll just click that and it will add it here. You should only have 1. Mine has 2 because I duplicated the action. I repeated it. I'll just delete it. So you should only have 1. Once you have it, go to the code tab again. And then we're going to add code to these blocks. So in step 4, we're going to go to our sound drawer and get a set pitch effect block 2. Right now it's set to 100. We're actually going to make that random because if you've heard sneakers in real life, their squeaks are always different. So we're going to do a random pitch level for that so that it replicates real life a little bit more. So I went to the operators drawer and I grabbed this pick random block and inserted it inside my set pitch effect block. And now I'm just going to change that 1 to a 0. And then still in step 4, we're going to get an if statement from the control drawer. And then we're going to go back to that operators drawer and get this less than block. So the less than has the pointing part of our less than symbol pointing towards the left. So we're going to get that and insert it into our if statement. Change the 50 to a 100. And then go to our motion drawer to get that X position variable. So you're just going to scroll down to kind of the bottom of the motion drawer and get the X position. And then inside our if statement, we're going to get a block from the sound drawer. That's play sound. And mine's defaulting to sneaker squeak. Yours probably is too. But if it's not, just use the drop down button to get the sneaker squeak sound. So we're going to repeat a lot of that for this second when we're using our right arrow key. So we're going to change this space key to the right arrow. And then we're going to use pretty much all the same blocks. There's just going to be a couple differences. So we're going to get another set pitch. We're going to go to the random block in our operators drawer, insert that in there, insert that into the set block, change the 1 to a 0. Go to the control drawer and get an if statement. Go to the operators drawer, but this time instead of less than, we're going to use greater than, and we're going to use greater than 100. But again, we're going to use the X position from the motion drawer. And then you're going to go to sounds again and get the play sneaker squeak. So now if you hit your green flag, you should be able to move your sprite back and forth and hear the sound effects. So if you can tell, my sound only comes on after a certain point when I'm going to the right. So that's when I've gone over 100. So I'm going to hit pause on that and go on to step 5, and we're going to build our first of 3 functions that allows us to reuse code anywhere we want without having to rewrite it. So we're going to build 3 of those, and our first one we're going to do by coming down here to our My Blocks palette and clicking the Make a Block. And we're going to name this one Animate Stance and hit OK. So you'll see we get this define animate stance. We have to tell it what animate stance is. So you can think of it like this play sound block would have other code underneath it, but because we're making ours up, we get to see what that code is going to be. So we're going to go to our looks drawer, and I want you to grab 2 switch costume blocks and just attach them one on top of each other for our animate stance. And we're going to change the first costume to be max-C and the second to be max-B. So C as in cat, B as in boy. So if you're using a different sprite that's not max, come up to your costumes tab in the top left and look at your different costumes to decide how you want to animate what your sprite is doing when you're moving left and right. But I'm going to go back to the code tab. And now, so if we just let it run like this, we wouldn't actually see the animation. It would happen so fast because of how fast your computer works. So we're going to add a wait time in there. So go to your control drawer and grab this wait 1 second block and insert it between the 2 purple switch costume blocks, and grab a second one and put it underneath the second switch costume block. But we're not going to leave it at 1 second. We're going to change it to a ½ second for both, because a 1 second can be very long in programming. So we don't want it to last too long. So I'm just going to click inside that bubble and use the period and then the 5 to do a ½ second. And I'm going to do that on both. All right, so now we're going to add, I'm going to come back up here above our statements, and I'm going to add a when any key pressed block. So we're going to grab this when space key, and I'm going to put it off to the side just a little bit here and change that to any key. And then we're going to animate we're going to go down to my blocks and grab this animate stance block and attach it here. So now if we run our code, it's going to do that little animation with any key we press. So even if I wasn't moving, I could hit any key and that would happen. I'm going to stop the code. And that was step 5, so now we're going to move on to step 6. And in step 6, we're going to make another block of code that's all our own. So we're going to go back to the My Blocks drawer, click on Make a Block, and this one's going to be called Animate Rebound. So again, we're going to be using the costumes to do some stuff when this is when we make a rebound or block a rebound. So we created that. We have our define block. I'm going to drag it down here so it's not overlapping on anything. And I'm going to go back to the looks drawer and grab 2 more switch costume blocks and attach them here. And for this one, we're going to leave the first one set to max-D and change the second one to max-B. So you're looking at costume D and costume B for this one. And then we're going to grab a wait block from the control drawer and put it between those 2 switch statements. And just do, and this time instead of 0.5, we're going to do 0.3. So it's a little faster. So it's different than our animate stance. So we've done a different costume combination, and then we're doing a faster transition between them. Okay, so that block is done. And now we're going to go to step 7, which is at the top of page 4 if you're following along with the activity sheet. And we're going to make our last function code, block of code. So under My Blocks, once again, click the Make a Block button. And this time we're going to type in rebound. And it popped up here. I'm going to drag it over here. And the first block we're going to attach to it comes from our events palette. And it's going to be this broadcast clone. So we're going to broadcast the message delete clone. And then we're going to increase our score by 1. So you're going to come over here to the variables drawer and grab this change variable by 1. And we're going to click and drag that underneath our broadcast statement. Change this variable to be rebounds. And then we're going to come down here to the My Blocks and grab this animate Animate Rebound. So that was step 7. So now we've used our Animate stance up here. We used Animate Rebound here. We just have Rebound left to do. So that's where this block of code comes in from earlier. This is step 8. We're going to grab a forever loop from our control drawer. And then we're going to grab a if statement from the control drawer and nest it inside there. And this time we're going to go to our sensing drawer, but we're not going to grab the key pressed block. We're going to grab this touching block so that when we touch the basketball, we're going to send off that rebound message. We're going to use the rebound block, and that is what will increase our score and then kind of trigger all those other things to happen. So using the drop down button, click on basketball, and then go to your My Blocks drawer and grab your rebound block. Okay, so that's our code. You can go ahead and click the green button now and test it out. So you saw that real quick. I'm just going to run it once. My score went up by 1. My costumes changed. They acted differently. So if your code doesn't quite do that or your score is not changing, go ahead and go back in through the steps and see what might not be working. See if your settings match what's on the activity sheet or what I did on our lesson today. And go ahead, and if you want to, you can post a picture of your project online with the hashtag #SpursGiveCoding. We'd like to really see what you've made and know how the project's going. Thanks for coming to this lesson, and I hope you come to our live session and to our recording next week.